Michael Boyle's StrengthCoach.com presents the Strength Coach Podcast, brought to you by Perform Better, the experts in functional training and rehabilitation. PerformBetter.com.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 385 of the Strength Coach Podcast, brought to you by Perform Better, the experts in functional training and rehabilitation. My name's Anthony Rana. The show notes are located at strengthcoachpodcast.com. All right, today on the strengthcoach.com and MBSC.TV Coach's Corner, I spoke with Coach Boyle about functional training. Comes from a tweet that he did about why he feels it gets a bad rap. We also talked about the whys behind the scoop toss, why he does it, as well as the med ball drop catch. And we finished up discussing what they do at MBSC to promote consistency. For the Hit the Gym with the Strength Coach segment, I have on two-time Golf Digest 50 top golf fitness trainer Mitch Sadowsky. He's the owner and founder of Aritas Performance, and he's the owner and founder of Mitch 11 Strength and Performance. We talked about golf fitness, obviously, and really strength training for golfers and some of the misconceptions, what that looks like, what his programming looks like, what his speed and power training looks like, and why you need to be careful not to put speed on top of dysfunction. Some of the non-negotiable strength exercises for him, staying in your lane when it comes to this. Sometimes this is definitely one of those sports where we've seen golf pros trying to get into the fitness piece and fitness professionals getting into the golf piece, and just kind of talked about that a little bit, and really golf strength training and how it parallels this idea about, first of all, the joint by joint idea, as well as just really functional training and health and longevity, and taking a 30 to 35 year approach. So we talked about that and so much more with Mitch Sadowsky. For the Naamly Maximizing the Member Experience with Sumit, founder of Naamly, Sumit talks about the immense power of getting involved in your community. So many great ideas, as usual, from Sumit. So today we also start a special 3-part series from the boys from the Varsity House Gym and the Business of Strength. It's called The 3 Pillars of Scaling Your Gym Business. Today, Coach Joe is going to talk about vision and mindset of scale, and kind of really being ready from a mindset for the challenges you're going to face when you start to scale. And like I said, this is a 3-part series, so over the next 3 episodes. And this is leading up to their strongest year retreat of 2024. It's September 19th and 20th in Scottsdale, Arizona. It's a 2-day gym business specific mastermind with lectures, workshops, breakout sessions, and social networking events. It's for gym owners who want to scale their business and beyond for $500,000. So go to bosretreat.com. That's Business of Strength. So bosretreat.com for more info, and you can use the code Strength Coach 300, one word, Strength Coach 300, for a special discount. Guys, Perform Better is having their biggest sale of the year right now, the summer sale. Over 100 products. So right now, I think it's 118 actually, with up to 40% off. There's rowers, air bikes, dumbbells, kettlebells, racks of all kinds, bands of all kinds, so many different things that are up to 40% off. Go to performbetter.com to check it out. Lots of things to get to, so let's get on the phone with Coach Boyle. All right, guys, now it's time for strengthcoach.com and MBSC.TV Coach's Corner with Coach Boyle. You can try strengthcoach.com and MBSC.TV, both of them, for 7 days for free. You can either go to strengthcoach.com or MBSC.TV to check out those offers. Coach, how you doing? It's been a while. So
I know it's been a long time. I'm doing really well, as you can see by the evidence. The beautiful, that is not a fake backdrop behind me. That is a real life picture. So
unbelievable. People will be, they'll be able to see that when we do a little snippet for the show. So Coach, all right, you posted this today, I think. Yeah. Functional training. We haven't talked about this in a while too. Functional training gets a bad rap. If you understand functional anatomy, you understand what muscles really do. Functional training is just the application of functional anatomy to the training process. It's simply trying to use muscles in the way they work day to day. You said you didn't come up with the term for the book, original book, Functional Training for Sports. Human Kinetics did, but kind of really stuck with you. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about this because about that definition and why you feel like it gets a bad rap. I think Shara Vigian, hopefully I don't know, I didn't not pronounce her name wrong, right. I think it's because when functional training took hold in the industry, some went too far with it, making functional training look like circus acts. I don't feel like that's the case as much anymore. Just expand on this.
Yeah, I just put that out there because I was thinking about my practical at Perform Better, which by the time people hear this, it will already be out. But I still think we're trying to get stuff across to people, concepts across to people. That was one of the things why we roll, why we stretch, why we're doing this quote unquote functional training. And the thought came into my mind that functional training gets a bad rap because there was one of the guys who was kind of taking a little bit of the opposition view. And I just think there's people who have this decidedly negative view. Like, I don't like it. They always say, what's functional? What does that mean? I don't even understand. And I kind of look at it and think, you do understand. You're just choosing to act like you don't. Because when we talk, and I talked in the thread as it moved on about, I've always thought that functional training is a continuum, and I can describe the continuum to you. And I would say that probably the least functional lower body exercise you could do would be a lying two-legged leg press, lying on your back, the old kind of 45-degree leg press, or a hack squat or something like that. And then something like a goblet squat or a back squat would be more functional. By more functional, we mean more related to how the body functions. Obviously, when I look at it and think, there are not a tremendous amount of activities where you're going to be lying on your back, pushing up with your feet. So if we looked at that, I think you could clearly say, if we were having this discussion, well, yeah, that's not very functional. There aren't going to be a lot of real world situations where you're going to think, oh, wow, I'm stuck on the ground and someone's on top of me. I need to push them off with my feet. That might be the only illustration of that lying leg press being somewhat functional. Then you get to standing and squatting and you think more functional, obviously. Standing, bending down, standing up like people do to pick things, maybe not even to pick things up because we'd probably be more hip dominant, but let's just say to get in and out of a chair, to get on and off the toilet, more functional. Then we move to, let's just say, a step up or a split squat. Hey, that's more functional. That looks more like gait. That looks more like people moving. So I think when people say, I don't understand what it is and it's very nebulous, I look at it and think, I don't believe that that's true. I think you know exactly what we mean, but you're taking the contrarian side of this and say, we don't even know what function is. What does function
Yeah.
mean? And I think that it means relating to real life, relating to the real world. And yes, that can vary depending on what you do. I've used this, and I don't know if I've ever given this example on the podcast, but I remember years ago, and I think it was Scott Livingston actually, but I'm not 100% sure. But I was at a seminar one time where someone was talking about training downhill ski racers. And what the guy had said he had done, and he had commandeered a Home Depot cart, the kind that, not a shopping cart, but the flatbed carts with a handle.
Yeah.
And what he had done is he had made a balance board and he had put the balance board on the Home Depot cart. And he got the skier on the balance board. And then he proceeded to run the cart the length of the gym. And he said, for a downhill skier, that's really functional. You're in position. You're kind of holding your crouch. You're on the balance board. You're going side to side on the balance board, but you're moving, literally moving through the frontal plane. And I remember thinking, wow, that's the ultimate in functional training for that downhill skier. And so you could look at all these things and say, functional is clearly in the eye of the beholder, but I always go to my pornography in the Supreme Court decision, right? When the justices said, we can't actually describe it, but we know it when we see it. And I think that's the case with a lot of situations. you could look at something, and I think if we gave you, played the game, more functional, less functional, and I said, okay, lying machine bench press, dumbbell bench press, which is more functional? Everybody would say, oh, the dumbbell bench press is more functional. You have to stabilize, right? You have to use your arms independently. There's no stability provided by the machine, blah, blah, blah. Everybody would know what functional meant if they chose to think about it. I just think people have decided that, much like whether it's agility ladders or Olympic lifting or whatever it is, that I'm anti-functional training and I'm going to pretend that I don't understand.
Yeah. And by
usual.
the way,
that was about a 6-minute answer to a 1-minute question.
yes.
Right.
But by the way, I mean, this is really an argument that's really only in the industry. So I work at Lifetime 3 days a week, part-time. I do about 14, 15 hours of training. And they asked me, they're like, how, I've had these same clients for whatever, X amount of time. And a lot of people, they go through clients and they wonder, they're like, how do you, besides the amazing personality that you have, like, why is it that you have such high retention? And I say, it really starts in the beginning because I talk a lot of functional training. I'm talking to the average person. They're not, tied up in all these different definitions. I say, what I'm trying to say, you'll never see me on those machines over there. I say, you could do that on your own. You don't need me to be here for that. You'll only see me on those machines when I'm training. Once in a while, I'll go on them and I'll do some of those things. But I say, we're going to be standing up a lot. We're going to use the cable machines. We're going to stand up a lot. We're going to jump. We're going to throw. We're going to do some, squatting and hinging and pushing and pressing. Most of the time, we're going to be on our feet. And I said, I'm trying to take what we're doing in here and we're going to apply it to what is going on outside. And the buy-in right away from those people, they know this isn't a 6-week ab challenge or anything. And so I think people understand right away what I'm doing, and they've stayed with me the whole time. I haven't really had do a lot of selling from that perspective, and they love what they're doing from that, and they feel better. So it's not an argument anyone's having outside of really Twitter or our own industry. And it's not like, we're not doing circus acts. We're just doing things that can relate to, hey, when you walk outside the gym, I tell them, I am not a gym rat. I don't want to spend a lot of time here. So I'm trying to get the most bang for your buck, right? Exercises that we can from that perspective.
And I think I said, I have to go back and reread because I don't reread these things that I wrote, but I know I said that functional training is training that makes sense. And I think that's what you're saying is when you explain to somebody who doesn't know anything about training what you're going to do, they look at you and go, that makes sense. I mean, think about it in reverse. If you said, yeah, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to try to make you lift as much weight as you possibly can to the point that you're ready to explode. People might look and think, why are you going to do that? Or I'm going to make you do stuff, as many reps as you possibly can to the point where you feel like you can't move your arms anymore. People, again, non-strength training people might look at you and think, why would you do that? What would the point of that be? And if you said, oh, I could still get you, I could get you big without doing that. Or, I could get you stronger without doing that. I just think this is the way that you do it. The average person, it goes back. Do you remember the movie Starman? You're probably old enough to remember. It was about, I think it was Jeff Bridges was in the movie, and he was an alien that came to Earth and took on a human life form. And a lot of the movie was about his kind of literal translation of what he saw on Earth. And there's one scene where he gets to the yellow light and he floors it. And the woman that he's with is like, what are you doing? And he's like, well, the yellow light is a signal to speed up. He said, I've noticed that, I'm observing, I'm here. And it's right. And she's like, actually, no, it's meant to slow down. And he's like, no, absolutely not. That's not what it is. Everybody I've driven with, when they see the yellow light, they immediately put their foot on the gas as hard as they can and try to get past it. And I think sometimes we're the earthling and our client is the alien, and they're kind of looking at us thinking, this doesn't make any sense. I can remember when I first started training athletes, and I remember hockey guys were doing 45-minute bike rides. Everybody did 45-minute bike rides. And I said, we're going to do 1-minute sprints. And I can remember the guys looking at me going, that makes so much more sense. It's so much more like hockey. I think that's a way better idea. Like, why would I ride for 45 minutes straight? when I could do 10 1-minute sprints with 2 minutes rest in between and have it be just like the game. And the players automatically, they bought in right away. Like you said, your clients, like I had no trouble with players buying in because I just did what made sense to me. I've always done what made sense. I haven't been, and that's why I guess I get a little bit of shit from people, because I'll tend to change if someone makes a point and says, "Hey, I think this is a better way to do this." I would just look and think, "Yeah, that makes sense. That's probably a better way. Let's do it that way. Let's do it your way, because your way seems to make a little more sense to me than my way did." And I just think that's how we got to this whole quote unquote functional training thing of looking at, okay, what is somebody going to do? And then, I went back to it and it says it in the quote. Sorry. And I know I'm soliloquying you here, but as we started to understand more about functional anatomy, as you went through sort of the Gary Gray early metamorphosis of thinking about, hey, muscles, there's eccentric, there's concentric, and there's absorbing and then releasing, well, however you want to look at it. And when you start looking at that, you think, oh, this just makes so much sense. What we're doing, why are we doing plyos? Well, it makes sense. Why are we doing single X stuff? Well, it makes sense. It all makes sense. And really, that's tomorrow's talk, which whenever anybody hears this, tomorrow will have long since passed. It'll probably be next Monday or Tuesday. But it's that start with why idea. Why do we do what we do? And part of that is this idea of, why do we do something that someone calls functional training?
Yeah.
Do it because it makes sense.
Yep. Coach, it's a great segue, actually, because I have a couple of whys to ask you. MBSC had a commercial or, kind of an ad or a video reel or something about upcoming program. Vinny was in it and he had a couple exercises. Just wanted to ask you why, especially the med ball drop. Somebody's on their back, and Vinny's dropping the ball to them. And it does go against a little bit of the think like a lawyer idea. We just talked about being on the ground and on your back and you're doing some. So what is your why behind that? Go back to this functional idea. How is that functional?
Well, actually, that goes back more to Hunter's force idea. We want more force. So we want to create larger eccentric loads. So initially we might have started our chest pass progression with a tall kneeling chest pass against the wall. But at some point when we want higher forces, we would medicine ball bench press, where we would I would drop the ball onto you from a standing position. I'm standing over you. I would drop it. When we're trying to look at, okay, how do I increase that eccentric load, or how do I increase the acceleration due to gravity? I make the distance larger. So in that phase of training, we're looking at kind of more high force upper body stuff, and we're trying to figure out how to do that. I think that's safer than, say, plyo push-ups or drop push-ups or things like that. Like, I don't love them from a shoulder perspective, but we've been able to do chest pass variations and medicine ball bench press variations with little to no negative. But like I said, think like a lawyer. Yes, we only use the soft balls. We have dropped a few balls right on people's faces when they count wrong. So there are moments where that goes awry. But when we do it, I am adamant, and sometimes I see people doing it with heavier rubber balls, and I'm like, don't. And they're like, oh, they're more experienced, they know. And I'm like, yeah, soft toss balls only. So if you get faced with a soft toss ball, it's probably not fun, but it's akin to maybe a soft punch in the face with a boxing glove.
And also, it's a little easier to grip than that. The other balls.
On your hands, yep. It's easier on everything, truthfully. That's about the only thing we use our heavier med balls for now. So we're dropping 12s, 14s, 16s from higher. So we're getting, if you think it's, 32 feet per second. So we're just increasing the load.
Yeah. Also, this is a bit the biggest misconception, I think, with you as well, is you're not doing this with your 60-year-old average training client. These are athletes most likely that you're doing it with. I'm not going to go back and go to Lifetime and do it with, my 84-year-old client that, needs
exactly.
to.
Our average client would never do that.
Yeah.
But our athletic client, when we're in this, because we've been playing around with some of Hunter's drop catch stuff. And so it kind of links into that drop catch phase. And drop catch, it's interesting. Drop catch is just snap downs, which again, snap downs are stupid. Why do snap downs? And you think, I'm not sure it's stupid. If you start looking at the force plate data and we start thinking, the one thing that we see is that the key to being explosive is in the transition, in that ability to go that eccentric contraction to a brief isometric contraction to a concentric contraction. And so that ability to be fast eccentric to isometric does have value. And then the ability to load that, if you look at what Hunter was saying, is that the force plate data, and that's what people have to start looking at, is looking at force rather than weight. And I'm trying to put that lens in, or that hat on, or whatever, and say, okay, let's look at this in a force versus weight equation. As he did, the depth drop is a really graphic illustration in terms of the forces are just massive. The 6 times body weight on a single leg doing depth drop type stuff. So it's really obvious, but in a thing like a drop catch, there's a really big difference there from a force perspective than there would be in a heavy split squat. And he went and he did it. This is what I love. I really give Alex Natera and Hunter credit, because they took ideas and then they quantified them on the force plate. They went and said, I had this idea and I did this, and in this, whatever, in the drop catch phase or in the unilateral thing with Natera, they were right. The forces were higher. So that's where I think people should probably stop arguing and start learning and start listening, and don't argue with us, particularly if you haven't really examined, and I won't say the data, but if you haven't examined the person's thought process. So go back through and watch Alex's presentation, or go back through and watch Hunter's presentation, and then ask yourself, does that science seem to hold water for me? And when I look at it, I think, yeah, it does. It makes absolutely perfect sense.
Yeah. And we did have Hunter on the show a couple episodes ago, so you guys can go to it. And I got a lot of great feedback from that one, because he really does a great job making it pretty simple. So good stuff. Coach, scoop toss. What's the why behind that one?
Basically getting sort of an Olympic lifting type effect. Again, high velocity, high force, low load. So with someone like Pat Frymuth, you look at him and think, he probably could clean, if we wanted to mess with him, he probably could clean in the 300s. But I look at that and think, do I really want Pat, who's only been back with us for a couple of months, doing super heavy hang cleans? Or would I rather get that hip extension, if you want to call it triple extension? I don't know if everybody, again, that's another term that's become unpopular when before it was popular. But do I want that explosive extension? Do I need 300 pounds, or can I use 12?
So you're using 12-pound ball?
Yeah, that was probably, I'm guessing, but that was probably a 12-pound ball.
Yeah.
And so same idea, though. I'm just trying to maybe be faster and be safer, both at the same time. Vinny, not me. That was actually.
Yeah. Mike, will you do anything like a, I don't even know what it's called, the one where it's almost like a shoulder press, where CrossFit does it a lot, where they have the thing up top.
Like a wall ball. They call it wall ball.
Wall ball. Yeah, there you go. Yes.
We don't wall ball, because I don't necessarily see the value of being explosive overhead as much as I see the value of being explosive forward. If we look at most sports, the explosion that's going to occur in terms of hands and hips together is going to be very horizontal as opposed to vertical. Maybe, again, someone might argue, what about volleyball? You're right. What about volleyball? Okay, you got me. But in general, in collision sports, if you're putting your hands on people, it's going to be more horizontal than. So just, that would be the only real reason. If someone could make a really good case for me for the wall ball thing, I probably would try it, but I don't see it.
Yeah. You were talking about in one of your threads as well about, consistency. And Chad, I don't know what his last name was, but he had said, what have you seen to be the biggest factor in promoting better consistency? I think you're spot on with this. I think this is the number one thing. This is, over time when you start to see what the effects that can happen over time. When I actually had a checklist on for 4 months of just doing different kinds of cardio. I wanted to like do 6 days a week, and missed a couple here and there, but I looked at that 4 months. It was amazing, and I saw the numbers go up, et cetera, et cetera. What you said caring was a big thing. What exactly? I mean, it's not just, hey, we really care about you. What are you guys doing to make sure that, you're promoting that consistency and caring on your part?
I think it's concern. It's developing a relationship. It's really making it personal. I've said this a bunch of times on the podcast, but we call it personal training. We don't call it impersonal training. Imagine if you said, I'm going to be an impersonal trainer. I'm going to train you, but I'm really not going to give a shit about you. I'm just going to take your money. And it's going to be purely transactional if we think of kind of the Joe Ehrman language, right? It's just, you give me $100, I give you an hour of my time. When it's all over, we go our separate ways. I don't care about you. You don't care about me. I don't think that's a great way to develop a business. I think taking that time to text somebody and say, hey, how was the workout? How did you feel, on the off day? I think learning people's kids' names and knowing what they do at their job, like all of that stuff, you develop a relationship. And that relationship, whether it's with adults or whether it's with athletes, that builds a sense of trust and a desire to be there and to continue and to be consistent. And it's a little bit of like, hey, you think, I don't want to let Anthony down. I told Anthony I was going to be there today. I'm going to be there. And people always talk about that, the accountability partner idea. I think sometimes as trainers, we are everybody's accountability partner.
Sure.
Because they're always there like your dog waiting for you, right? When you come home, the dog's never like someplace else, unconcerned, right? It's right by the door because it knows that you're coming home.
Exactly.
And I think that's, in the same way when you're training, if you got there and if you arrived and I was someplace else and I thought, yeah, I'll be there in a couple minutes because, it's purely transactional and I'm going to get my $100 and you're going to get your hour. I don't know if that would long-term build you a good business unless maybe you were unreal at your job. And I guess maybe the results, the workout experience was so exceptional that someone said, hey, and there have been people like that in our field where someone might look and think, yeah, he's a real asshole, but really, really good at his job. So I put up with the fact that he's a real asshole.
Yeah.
In general, the people that are probably doing the best, at least economically in our field, are really, really good relationship people. I look at like the Mark Fishes and the Luca Hosebars and the people like that who are really Cassie Day, like people that are having really big impact with their businesses. They're really good people. There aren't a lot of this like, oh yeah, he's a total dick, but man, he's crushing it. His business is just booming and everybody's there in spite of him. There have been in the past, there have been those people, but I think there's less and less of them in our field now.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, Coach. Well, we'll let you go. I know you're going to Providence this weekend. It's the last Perform Better Summit for the year, so they've been going pretty well. Have some fun out there, and we'll talk to you next week.
Yeah, 24 hours from now, I will be speaking in Providence.
There you go.
Hey, what's happening, Strength Coach Podcast family? This is Coach Joe Strong from the Varsity House Gym and the Business of Strength, and I'm super excited to be delivering you a 3-part series on what we call the 3 pillars of scaling your gym business. And the first pillar, we're going to talk about the vision and the mindset of scale. The second pillar will be the people, and the people you need, the who's you put on your team. And the third pillar is the systems and processes that you need to scale. So let's make this short, sweet, and actionable for everybody. The first step and the first pillar of being able to scale your business is the mindset of scale. Scaling and growth is a mindset. You have to be ready for growth. You have to be ready for the challenges that you're going to face when you start to scale, adding new clients, adding new employees, spending more money, taking on more risk, more debt, maybe leveraging equipment and so forth, right? There's a lot of things, negotiating new leases. There's a lot of things that go along with the mindset of scale. And we talk about it often where the mindset of the owner and the management team of any business is really the anchor or the speedboat of that business. It's either holding you back or it's moving you forward. So number one is getting the vision set. You know exactly what you're trying to do. You have a plan in place for a 1, 3, 5 year scaling plan. You've worked out details on revenue, employees, growth within the company, and you have a very keen idea of what it looks like when employee A starts with your business and then ends 3, 4, 5 years later, and what that progression of employment looks like, and how, as the business scales, you're going to tackle the different challenges that come up in your business. So going from the solo entrepreneur to having multiple employees, maybe a general manager in a facility, have a training director, right? Having specific seats. And then as you scale to multiple locations, the possibility of a COO, a regional manager, so forth like that. Those things take shape really quickly. One of the things that we really look at is your habits, the consistency, self-belief being number one, right? Number one is self-belief. So in the world of vision, you have to have pig-headed self-belief. And in small business, that's a mission critical trait. Dan and I, for all intensive purposes, maybe too dumb, maybe just meatheads from Jersey, but we've never thought that we couldn't do anything. And whatever we said we were going to do, we did it, and we never complained. And we just try to find solutions. So we had a very strong, foundation of self belief. After that, once you have self belief and you're going to do it, you have to start to line up your habits, because the habits that allow a solo entrepreneur, one business, 50 clients to thrive do not work for 500 clients, multiple 7 figures. The habits need to be very, very consistent. Meeting schedule, pulse, the way in which you do your business, the timing in which you do your business. I'm very militant with my habits, and I've gotten very consistent because of that. When your weekly schedule is very consistent, your monthly schedule is consistent, your meetings are consistent, the way in which you approach your business, I do this on this day, this on this day, this on this day, and that's all allocated. When you're probably ready to get really, and you've done that for a period of months, years, even in my case, mine and Dan. Now you've built consistency around those habits, and those habits are no longer something that you're trying to build in your schedule. They're just kind of how you live and what you do. Now you're probably ready to start thinking about scaling. A lot of times gym owners come to me and they say they want to open up more gyms and they want to, scale their business. They're going to move a general manager. They want to get off the gym floor, even as a big one that I hear, and they're just not ready. They don't have the systems, the processes, and the personal habits to support that. Their personal life is all over the place. Maybe they just had a brand new baby and things like that. And that's all great, but that's going to throw a wrench in your ability to scale, right? So you have to think about all those things long and hard. And what I look at is, the first thing I look at is the owner's personal schedule and personal productivity plan. How do you get your work done? What does your meeting look like? What do your responsibilities look like? And where are they baked into your weekly schedule? So those are the habits. Once we've done that consistently for a period of time, we might be ready to move to the next thing. And that's starting to lay out the dream and lay out the plan and lay out the processes that are required. When you go to big dreams, we always talk about, you got to have this big vision. A great book that I recommend is 10X is Easier Than 2X by Dan Sullivan. It's a great book for anybody thinking about scaling, because you don't want to just I'm going to open up another gym. It's like, well, if we're going to do this, let's put a plan in place for 5, 10, 20 gyms, so that the processes and systems and recruiting of employees is set up for future success. If you just do another gym, you're probably just duplicating and replicating problems, old issues, bringing old ideologies with you. But when you set up for scale, hey, does this work for 5 gyms? A lot of times the answer is no. So you want to have big dreams, and you want to plan big and scale big, even if you fall short. So if you plan for 10 gyms and hit 5, you're still doing pretty good. Our plans for 20, if we hit 10 in the next couple of years, that's still pretty good. And we've gotten really good at seeing what that looks like at scale. And there's so many processes that I don't have time to list here individually that just don't work anymore when you have 3, 4, 5 gyms. So having big dreams, but staying focused on the current mission. You got to get the work done that's required today. And so here's an example. I have a plan in place for 20 gyms. We've mapped out the locations, even down to some of the buildings we want to be in and everything. Right? We've thought long and hard about what that looks like on the employee side, the financial side, the system side, and the leadership side. But right now, the mission is the next gym. And that's it. We're doing these in blocks of 5. And it's like, let's just get the first 5 blocks done. So I'm not getting clouded by dreaming and, sitting on a rock having pipe dreams about the 20 gyms. I'm focused on what needs to happen right now to get the gyms we have above the bar and profiting and thriving to the point where I don't have to worry about them, and planning the next gym. That's it. Stay focused on the mission. So the first part of the pillars of scale is vision. And that means laying out your plan, being really consistent with what you're doing, building the habit set around scale, what your workload and your abilities look like, and what your personal productivity looks like, being really consistent with that. And then having that big dream, but understanding that you have to stay focused on the current mission and get the work done that's required to make the businesses you already have thrive, so that you don't have to be looking back over your shoulder all the time as you're scaling. The worst thing that could happen is you open up another gym, and then you're constantly being pulled back to the first gym because of problems that weren't addressed before you decided to move forward with your scaling process. So I hope that tips helps everybody. Don't forget to tune in next time for the second part, people who you need to have on your team and what you need to do from a personnel standpoint to scale to your next gym or multiple gyms. Let's go.
Welcome back to Naamly's Maximizing the Member Experience segment, where we delve into the strategies and tactics that elevate your business and helps you foster personalized connections at scale. Today, we're stepping out of the gym and into the community to explore how engaging directly with our local area can transform our business and personal lives. Whether it's networking, meeting local celebrities, or simply spending quality time with clients outside the 4 walls of our business, getting involved in the community has immense power. So let's dive right in. First up, let's talk about networking. Participating in community events, local business groups, or charity functions isn't just about shaking hands and exchanging business cards. Yes, it's about kissing babies and shaking hands like it goes, but it's also about building meaningful relationships that can lead to partnerships, collaborations, and even friendships. These connections can open doors that you didn't even know existed and bring opportunities to elevate your business in ways you hadn't imagined. And then there are the local celebrities, community leaders, popular business owners, and other influential figures. Meeting these individuals can significantly boost your visibility. Often, these community leaders have a broad reach and can help amplify your message, endorse your services, or simply offer valuable advice. Becoming a recognized authority isn't just about what you know, it's also about who you know and who knows you. Now, let's not underestimate the value of simply spending time outside your business with clients and prospects. Organizing or attending social events, charity runs, or local festivals with them can strengthen relationships in a more relaxed, informal setting. This not only enhances client loyalty, but also makes your business a memorable part of their lives. Plus, these interactions often provide deeper insights into your clients' needs and preferences, enabling you to serve them better. Of course, all of this contributes directly to brand recognition. Every time you participate in a community event, a sponsor a local sports team, or host a public seminar, you're putting your brand in front of potential new clients. It's about showing that your business isn't just a place to work out, it's an active contributing member of the community. And remember, let's consider the broader impact of all of this. Engaging with your community also sets a powerful example for your team and encourages them to take initiative and engage in community service. This not only bolsters team spirit, but also enhances your gym's reputation as a positive force in the neighborhood. So, whether it's through networking, forming new relationships, or actively participating in community events, stepping out to your community can significantly enhance your business and personal growth. It makes your brand a living, breathing part of the community tapestry woven into the lives of those you serve. Thank you for tuning into today's episode. I hope it inspires you to step out and engage more deeply with the world outside your gym. Remember, sometimes the best way to grow is to get out there and be seen. If you enjoyed this segment, are interested in getting more insights on elevating your member experience and setting your business up for success, then click the link for many more such resources.
All right, guys, now it's time for the Hit the Gym with the Strength Coach segment. And I have on Mitch Sadowsky. He's the owner and founder of Aerotas Performance and owner and founder of Mitch 11 Strength and Performance. He works with athletes of all levels, strength coach, but he's also been named to Golf Digest 50 top golf fitness trainers in 2020 and 2022. That's kind of how I originally met Mitch, is through Titleist. He's also Titleist certified, but he's also we did Strong First up in Massachusetts together. So he holds that as well. He also USA weightlifting level 2 advanced lifting coach, certified functional strength coach, certified speed and agility coach, and sports performance specialist. And the reason why I wanted to bring up some of the other, I don't normally tell everybody's certifications, but what I wanted to kind of get was a sense of like, and this stems, Mitch and I were in Chicago for the Perform Better Summit. And, you know, although there's no bourbon here today, which I'm thinking about changing this to 2 bourbons and a coach for the future, but because that's where we had some great conversations in Chicago. But what I wanted to get the sense is, and you know, we're going to talk about this, is that golf training is very similar to like corrective exercise and functional training. We just talked about with Coach Boyle about that. It gets a misconception about, you know, that all functional training is a circus act. All corrective exercise is you're doing correctives for an hour. And then some people just feel like golfers are just doing rotational exercise. They're never lifting any heavy weight. And look, let's be honest. A lot of the things, the images that we see are maybe Scotty Scheffler doing his Golf Forever program, which is basically Pete Holman's Rip Trainer, which is great stuff. It's just not the only thing that people are doing. So long intro. Mitch, thanks for doing this, bud.
Dude, thanks for having me on. I'm glad we could continue the conversations over bourbon from Chicago. I think one of the cool things about those types of conferences and seminars isn't necessarily what you learn in sessions, but all the conversations that go on outside of the sessions, and some of the things that you and I talked about at dinner and in between. Some of those were really cool and kind of got my brain thinking a little bit more. And it's nice to kind of bounce ideas I have off of some other people.
Yeah, just to kind of side note here, this weekend is Perform Better Summit in Providence. And like I said, Mitch and I go back from, you know, certain Titleist Performance Institute summits and then Strong First. And there is nothing like the in-person. It's not just, we were just drinking only. There was a lot of conversations. We attended things together. Like Greg Rose one, the Brett Jones one, right? I'm not sure if you were in Todd Wright's, but
yeah.
And yeah, so we had these conversations about, oh, what would you do here? Oh yeah, our guys did this or that. That's right. You know, that's where the magic happens.
Yeah, for sure. I think the cool thing about that is when we get into the day-to-day training, you know, we have our systems, we have our models. Looking at going into these sessions, I like to look at the same problem from a different angle. Of go in, you look at it, and you say, okay, how does this help me help my athletes? And can I look at some of the problems that they have from through a different lens? And what we're trying to do with our athletes is fairly ubiquitous, whether they're 80 or 18 or 8. We're trying to solve some problems, and if we can look at those problems through a different lens, maybe there's something that we would have missed. That we all have our big rocks, but maybe there's a specific type of gravel that we can fill in some of those gaps with to help us keep that jar full.
Yeah, great analogy. Yeah, the gravel filling in those gaps, and I think again, that's why I wanted to go over some of the certifications to say, look, there's USA weightlifting in there, there's some speed and agility in there, there's kettlebells in there, and we talk about this misconception with training golfers and what it looks like. So I wanted to get your thoughts on that, and really kind of segue that into what is your programming? What can if I'm coming in to see you, what or in your team, what can I expect?
When you take the 30,000-foot view, it looks a lot like Coach Boyle's programming. We have a dynamic warm up. We'll put in our corrective exercise work right before the dynamic warm up. We'll go through some type of speed work, whether it's sprints or agility, things like that. We'll get into our jumping. We'll do some med ball work. Not all of our med ball work is rotational. I think, especially with golfers and any athlete, there's a lot of, global applications to speed and power, even if it's not rotational. So we'll do that. We'll get into our lifting, depending on where we are. We do unilateral, bilateral, hinge, knee dominant, upper body, lower body. And we'll do something challenging to finish, whether it's a core complex, a lot of carry variations, or we're doing some type of energy system development at the end.
One thing is I want to take a step back with that power piece, and you made a great point about people think with golfers, it's all going to be rotational med ball stuff. And I always try to say, like, even a slam or a chest press that we're doing, I feel like we're helping. I call it the power playground for people, where we're taking some of the playground movements and putting them in the gym. I like to tell them we don't stop playing because we get old. We get old because we stop playing. And so we're adding these playground movements, and I feel like it's kind of helping us. And we talked about this with Cliff Harsky as well, as helping us keep some of that athleticism, kind of regain it, get it back. So there's other movements that are important. So talk to me about what that speed part of it looks like for you, because we both know in general, we have a lot of older people coming to us for golf. So I personally am not doing any sprinting like on the ground. I will replace that with an airdyne sprint. Talk to me about what the speed and power stuff looks like for you.
Well, I think once we get into, and I'm going to use our like, not my general, but just like our typical 72-year-old who is going to come in and says, for us, because we're located, we started up with in partnership with the physical therapy clinic, and then built a performance wing for that PT clinic. We get a lot of people, especially golfers, who are, they have, usually it's back pain or knee pain. And so they're coming out of PT towards me, and we work in concert with the therapists to say, okay, where are our red light, green light, yellow lights? What can we do? And then what do our golfers need? Every golfer needs to move a little bit more dynamic. The golf swing is a dynamic move. We don't want to just use that as our dynamic movement. We want to help them prepare their body. So one, it's making sure they have better movement quality, better tissue quality. But then it just becomes volume and intensity. So I like to slam some med balls. It gets their heart rate up. And then depending on who it is, we'll do some type of lower threshold activity, whether it's we throw in a little bit more mobility after our med ball swings or med ball slams or tosses. We'll do maybe some type of row exercise, something in a half kneel, just to kind of toggle up and down, get the heart rate up, get the energy system up, toggle them back down, so that there's some recovery in there, but an active recovery. Or we do it with a carry, just something to kind of keep them moving, but get that explosive piece. We don't necessarily need to mimic what they would do with golf, but it sort of does. You slam a med ball as fast and as hard as you can for 5 reps. You're going to be probably in the 10-second, 8-second range. Golf swing takes 1.4, 1.7 seconds. And then you hop in the cart and you go chase your ball down. Some are easier to find than others, so you might have a little bit extra recovery time for a few. And then we go do it again. And so trying to recreate some of that, and that gets a little bit more buy-in from our golfers. Our older golfers are like, oh, there's no way I can do the stuff that Scotty Scheffler does. Like, you can. It's not going to look identical, but it's going to be very similar. And then when we start to put everything together, they realize, oh, yeah, just the dosage is different, the loading is different, but it's very much the same.
Yeah, and I still have all of my people, I'm not, for example, my 84-year-old is not doing vertical jump. I have her doing some quick squats, right? She can squat. She does a lot of little squatting. So we do quick body weight squats as fast as we can. It's that's my version of the vertical jump for her. We do some skaters, right? Some lateral movement. We're not jumping as high as we can. And I don't have her doing any rotational, but 90% of the people I have doing either a 180 or a 90 degree, or even some quick turns, working on separation, depending on, what their level is. What are you doing from a plyometric standpoint?
Yeah, pretty much the same things. We do a lot of different skater squat or our sprinter calf raises on the wall, something that's going to both create a little bit of a core load, a little bit of a core engagement form, which is funny because, again, I have an 80-year-old doing the same thing I have 8-year-olds doing as we do their athletic development. It's very similar type exercises. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to bring back the athleticism in the youth and the 80-year-old. So we'll do some skater squats or some sprinter calf raises on the wall. We'll hold on to a rig and do a plyometric squat where they're squatting down to about 90 degrees and then exploding up onto their toes. So we get that, we get plantar flexion, dorsiflexion. We can cue them into their big toes, which is going to help balance. We'll put them into a staggered stance. We'll change some positions a little bit. And it's great because it makes them feel athletic, but it gets some of the things that we know our aging population needs. So we have a really nice program that works in concert with our golfers or with our athletes.
Love it. I love that idea about kind of just getting them to hang on to the rig for that kind of quick spot. I haven't done that really. Get them on their toes. That's probably a nice progression from what I'm doing. So I'm going to try that. And you could always have them hold on to something for the skaters as well. You could just put the bar up, have them hold on to the barbell on the rack as they go lateral, depending on who it is. So
everything's a progression. As they get more and more comfortable with that added stability, we can change a few things with that. Again, we can remove a joint. We can take, instead of going bilateral, we'll just give them a kickstand and take that foot behind. You can still do 2 feet off of that. We're just changing the loading pattern with the feet and changing the positions. And a lot of them just really, really enjoy that. And then we can get them rotating from there. So they learn a little bit of separation, which, a lot of older golfers, they struggle with the separation perspective because they don't have the same sense of balance. They're not able to weight shift through their golf swing. If they do, it ends up being more of a sway and a slide. And that's, what everybody talks about. Oh yeah, I got a real bad sway and slide through my golf swing. We can take away some of the things that are holding them back movement wise and teach them separation by changing some of the patterns that we would just call functional movement or functional training. Grandma isn't going to do a single leg deadlift to the floor to pick something up. She's going to get into a staggered stance or a kickstand deadlift and then pick it up. Our 80-year-old golfer isn't going to squat down to the hole to pick the ball up out of the hole. They're going to do a staggered stance deadlift to do it. So we try to recreate that without necessarily giving away the endpoint, but we can recreate some of those things, create a little bit more stability and competency, and then it seems really easy when they go out and do it.
Yeah. One thing I love about the quick Titleist 12-point screen for golfers is, for anybody that doesn't know, there's a two separation tests. One is upper body from lower body, then lower body from upper body, and then there's also a pelvic tilt test, which absolutely nobody, not one person, I don't remember, has ever gotten that. Only young golfers have ever gotten it. But I do make that part of the warm up in the very beginning before I do some of these things. I say, let's just practice that test. Let's just try this, and I have them hold on to something to kind of create a little bit of core activation, that idea, that almost the Gray Cook idea of like lightly pressing into something, 25 to 30% pressure, getting some core activation in there, having them do that lower body turn, and then getting them into an understanding that. I've had a real great success with people from going from the test or the screens to incorporating it in, and then now they feel confident because they have a better skill. They feel like they can do it. Have you seen that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Greg Rose talks a lot about this in I think every seminar I've ever been in with him. I think even he spoke about it in Chicago. That sometimes the test becomes the corrective, and the corrective is the test. So if somebody has a shake and bake, or they're not pelvic tilting correctly, we'll get them into a position where they can pelvic tilt, and that becomes the warm up for their golf swing. We look at the pelvic rotation, and rather than getting too caught up in sussing out why they fail that screen, or however we're judging the quality of the movement, let's just teach them how to do that movement. Like, let's make that as a part of that. And the thoracic rotation, what does it look like when I take away their hips and their thoracic rotation all of a sudden decreases? Well, we know we have some separation issues, like all of those things. We can give them that and just say, hey, practice that. And all of a sudden, those three things will start to clear themselves up. And they're moving better, they're feeling better, the golf swing is better. And we really haven't done anything magical, but it seems like magic to our athletes.
Yeah, and I love this whole, it kind of stems a little bit from the 4x4 matrix type idea, this idea of from the ground up, like starting from the ground. And so the pelvic tilt in, when somebody's on their back, learning to do that's pretty easy. In the quadruped position is pretty easy. Now they're starting to gain some confidence and that they can do it. Same thing like a side lying rotation, or what Titleist might call an open book. Somebody's on their side, they're opening up. They're starting to learn and get this, because I think personally, and let me know if this is your experience with some of these people, they haven't really trained too much. They've only been on machines, and now they were like, oh, you're a golf trainer and you can help me with this. And then once they go through the screen, they're like, oh my God, I love this stuff because we're talking about it. And then when they get some of this, they've never done any of this stuff. And so sometimes I tell them, listen, it doesn't mean you can't do it. Sometimes nobody's ever asked you to do a pelvic tilt, right? How much, where else are you trying to do that?
Yeah. I think you bring up a good point about things that they have been doing or haven't been doing. And you mentioned doing a lot of floor-based exercises. Well, you get somebody in your 70s who's, had knee replacements, and maybe they can't get down to the ground. Maybe that's, getting down to the ground is very challenging, and a lot of people won't do that. We know the benefit of being able to get up and down off the ground. There's, Coach Boyle talks about it, Dan John talks about it. Everybody the luminaries the giants whose shoulders we're standing upon know the value of getting up and down off the floor. Can we build a program where that becomes accessible to them? So putting them on a table, getting them to get into these positions. So going quadruped from a table, doing pelvic tilt, doing stork turns while holding onto a table, doing open books on a table. And then we can start to ease them down to the ground. They get more comfortable getting up and down off the ground. And now they can get down on the ground and play with their grandkids. They can squat down, they can get down on one knee, pick up their grandkids and stand up when that's something they haven't done before. Then all of a sudden their drives pick up 10, 15 yards. They shave a few strokes off their golf game. And that for me is, that is functional fitness to a T right there, where all aspects of their life have improved just by doing a couple of simple things that we take for granted, but we've lowered the barrier of getting into those positions.
Love it. And that's a lot what we were talking about in Chicago. And just this idea, we're going to get to it in a couple minutes, but 100% golf. There's so many things in golf that, tie into functional training, or what we believe is functional training, taking what we're doing in the gym and hopefully applying it to the rest of life. Like you just brought up the grandkids are getting on the floor, which is super important. Great point about putting somebody on a table first. I do that with not only people that are maybe have knee replacements or problems with their hips, but overweight people as well. I don't want to embarrass them, put them on the ground and have them try to get up. But we're going to get to that because I do and the golf swing is the perfect expression of the joint by joint approach as well, right? But let's talk about what your strength training looks like as well. I can tell you right now, a lot of people think that we're never doing anything heavy, and we do get to that. We kind of sneak it in over time. But what does your strength training look like for the average person that's coming in? And then we'll talk about some of the elite golfers that you train.
So somebody walks in, we'll screen them when we sit down and talk to them. What are your goals? If it's a golfer, I like to use Greg Rose's approach of you're walking along the beach, you find a lamp, you rub the lamp, your magic genie comes out. I'm your genie. I'm here to grant you 3 golf wishes. What are they? So we talk about their goals, whether they're aesthetic or fitness or golf related, but we want to make sure that we know where our endpoint is. Then we'll screen them, whether it's FMS. We do have therapists here who can do the SFMA as well. So if somebody would fit into that model, we would use it, or we take them through TPI, and then we just figure out where are corrective exercises, where are our low hanging fruit, and we really attack that from the very first session. And we'll do a few things to give them a bit of a training effect, and then we just build from there. I think for a lot of people who haven't been very active, and this is their entry point, we try to keep everything really, really, really simple, because we know that those beginning sessions are going to be so impactful for them. But we just also have to understand that we want to take a long-term approach. This isn't a month or a 2 month. For a 50-year-old coming in, I want to take a 30 to 35-year approach. So everybody's heavy is different, which I think is important. I think you can put a 16-kilo kettlebell in somebody's hands, and that would be heavy. Or you could put a 16-kilo kettlebell in somebody's hands, and that would be light. We're just trying to figure out where on that continuum they fall, and then load appropriately. And then we move from there.
One of the things is, and I was just talking about Coach Boyle with this, is I try to stand up as much as I can. So we do a lot of cable positioning, whether that's in a dress position, which is athletic stance, or split stance variations with both feet forward, doing kind of separation of upper body and lower body with rotation, right? So there's a lot of variations for that press, a lot of variations for that row. One thing that I do feel like, if you had to say what's your non-negotiables, is I'll always try to get people to lift relatively heavy in Romanian deadlift and deadlift, because I can relate that back to the swing for the most part, or that position. What are some things you're non-negotiables for? Hey, look, we're not going to worry about our bench press, but here are some things that I really want to focus on getting you stronger in.
Oh, well, deadlift. For golfers, it's got to be the deadlift. Yeah. When you get into your setup position, this is the very first thing we look at. When I screen a golfer coming in, or someone who identifies as a golfer, the first thing we do is we look at their setup posture before we look at any movement. Before they say, "Do you want to see me swing a club?" I want to see what your setup position looks like. do you have an S posture? Do you have C posture? Do you have a neutral spine? I want to see what your setup looks like, because that's going to give me some information on what your hinge position is from a deadlift. And if we fix your deadlift in your hinge position, your setup position is probably going to fix itself as well. And one of the things that we've talked about here with our therapists, who, five of our six PTs, we golf. Everybody golfs here. There are a few people that don't, but from the PT staff, five of our six therapists golf. And, I identify as someone who golfs every once in a while. And we talk about a lot of the commonalities of what we see in some of our patients with back pain or shoulder pain, golfer's elbow, knee pain, things like that. And one of the things we noticed with our rotational athletes, not just golfers, is how pelvic position and pelvic misalignment will contribute to low back pain. So one of the things I want to see is what the pelvic position looks like, because that's going to limit or inhibit hip mobility. So rather than just hammering into hip mobility with the pelvis that's out of position, let's look at how we can get into a more ideal pelvic position, or even is that pelvic position affecting their hip mobility? And then we know where to put the bulk of our efforts, as opposed to like, I need, my hips are tight. I need more mobile hips. Like, well, why do your hips not move in the first place? Let's take a look at that. And then we can identify some longer lasting solutions, rather than just, doing hip cars or shin boxing, things like that. We could just be chasing the wrong solution.
Absolutely. I think kind of going back to that and setting up these positions, one of the things that is so effective for me, as from a sales perspective, even when I owned 5 Iron Fitness, was I do exactly what you do. First thing we look at is the posture. I actually take a picture of it beginning of the session. After I talk to them for a while, we take a picture and then we go through the screen. When we're done with the screen, we talk a little bit more. We go over some stuff like what I saw. And then what I always do is we do like some bridges to kind of, teach them about activating the glute. A lot of them have maybe failed that, the extension, the bridge test, right? Mm-hmm. And then I'll teach them a plank just to kind of get that core and that straight line between their ears, hips, knees, and ankles. And then I get them up and I have them do the dowel hip hinge drill. Mm-hmm. And so putting the dowel on their back, and I say, look, you can do this with your driver too. But what I do is I would have them do that, try to do about 8 to 10 of them. And then I take that, when they're at the bottom position, I take it and I take it off and I say, just stay in there, just think. And I put a golf club in their hand and I go, just get comfortable now in that position. And I take a picture of that position as well. And I compare the two, and people are just amazed. And sometimes I feel like that was the one thing that I help people with. They're like, wow, I was on the course and I was doing it with my driver the whole round. I felt so much better, because now we both know that they can rotate more when they have a better position. They're feeling better. And then, some of my other training just sucks, but they did that great dowel hip hinge and they're like, this is amazing. And they signed up already. So it's great. So to your point, I love that, focusing on those positions. It's not always about, the rotational piece.
Yeah, I think one of the most impactful things for some of our golfers is teaching them how to find neutral. And it's something really simple that we do at every TPI level 1 seminar, is teaching the coaches how to find neutral. And again, whether, I use coach as sort of a catch-all, because once they go through level 1, they'll be able to go down their specific path, whether it's medical, instructional, fitness, juniors. They're able to see, how do we help our golfers find neutral? So we go through the flexion, extension, neutral. Here's neutral. So we'll teach that to our golfers to say, here's where neutral is. And I've had a lot of them come back and say, yeah, that drill that you taught me to find neutral, I've been doing that in my setup and I've been hitting the ball and, further, my back doesn't hurt at the end of rounds. This has been great. It's completely changed. And that's the only thing that we've really changed. is how to help them find neutral at their setup, and they find everything else improves after that.
Yeah, great point. I think going back to the ground up stuff is, they're learning the full range of motion on their back. They're learning it on their hands and knees, and they're learning it standing up. And I think Greg was talking about Michelle Wee back in the day had to do that as well. What she would do, and Jim McLean's a big proponent of this, is mimicking the position you want to get to the main swing thought right now. So for me, it was, where are my hips at impact, right? So I was working on this with one of Jim's guys. And where are my hips at impact? Where do they want to be? They want my belt buckle facing towards the target, right? So I would rehearse that before the swing. And they were saying Michelle would have to, and this happens with a lot of women, is they have that super S posture, right? Which for everybody, that's a big anterior tilt. And so just to get them in neutral, she would practice that pelvic tilt test and then find neutral, because sometimes people have to go from anterior, posterior, and then they can find the middle to kind of understand where they are at.
Yeah, and I think that brings up a good point too of what we do through our assessments. It's not just movement and of how much, and movement quality and movement quantity, but starting to understand, and this goes into the SFMA as well, is do we, when we have that S posture, why is there an S posture? And why does somebody have a C posture? So that we know maybe somebody needs better tissue quality, maybe somebody needs more stability. Is it a mobility problem? Is it a joint problem? We have all of these ways to help answer questions. And once we know the questions, then we can provide better answers rather than just the shotgun approach, which we try to avoid. Greg Rose put up a really good post on CPI the other day of assessing is so important, because when you assess a golfer, there are people who do this for a living. And we don't want to guess when we're training a professional athlete to try to figure out what are the problems that they're facing and how do we go and help them solve those problems. They're putting a lot of stress on us. And then you take that to, well, what's the difference between that and a 75-year-old? Well, a 75-year-old wants to golf well and out of pain. A lot of them don't care if their scores get better. Can I golf without pain? If you can take a 75-year-old who's retired, who all they want to do is golf, and you can get them golfing one more day per week because there's less wear and tear on their body, they're able to strain less during a round, and they can play one extra day. That's a life changer for a lot of them.
100%. It's very hard to sell, right? We talked about this the other day. I told you, my proudest moments are when my guys would come back from Hilton Head or certain golf trips or Ireland and say, man, I golfed. We did 18 the first day, 36 the next two. We played 18 the last day. We definitely were partying at night and drinking and eating and, a lot of fun. And I'm not in pain for the first time. And for me, that's my proudest moment. I don't even ask them how they played, because I'm not in complete control of that in either one of them, to be honest. But still, that's the proud piece for me, is that. But it's very hard to sell that, sell the no pain thing.
Yeah, but when they first experience it, because a lot of them have been in pain for so long that is the norm. That's all they're able to associate with. Because it's like having the flu. Like, you can have the flu for 2 days and you will not remember what it feels like to be healthy. You will only know what you're feeling right now, which is like garbage. When you take someone who's got back pain, that's all they know. And so it's hard to sell them, this is what it's going to feel like. But once they do, I mean, holy crap, that is magic. I've got one of our clients here. She doesn't, she's not a golfer, but she's active. She likes to run, and she's been having a lot of foot and ankle issues. She had surgery last year. She had a bone spur in her Achilles, and she didn't know what it was like to be out of pain like that. And she'll send me updates. She had a trip to New Zealand. They just had a European cruise, and she sent me all these pictures of her hiking mountains and telling me how great it was to be able to do this and not be in pain and not be sore afterwards. And I mean, that's so cool. It's not a just about the performance, but it's getting them to enjoy that journey a little bit more. That's super cool.
Yeah. I want to ask you, not specifically about the product, but really about our lane or doing certain things. And one of the things is speed sticks. I get a lot of people that will say, "Hey, Anthony, can we incorporate some speed sticks, or what do you think about speed sticks?" And I always tell them, so for anybody that doesn't know, speed sticks are a couple of kind of, let's call them golf shafts, and there are different weights. One's the weight of a golf club, one's lower the weight, one's more weight, right? So they're supposed to, there's a whole protocol where they're swinging almost like out of their shoes on some of them. And again, I'm not really telling the whole story, but it's basically, for me personally, I tell them, look, I do not want to get involved with these because it's not really my lane. And I feel like this is something, I don't feel like throwing a med ball certain ways. We don't mimic the golf swing. I don't have a golf club in my hand, whereas the speed sticks feel like a golf club, obviously. So it's something that I've stayed away from. Can you talk to me about your thoughts on kind of, what are some things that for you that, hey, that's not what we do here. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm going to asterisk them. I really like them. I think they're very, very useful tools. The asterisk is, what does your swing look like? Why is your swing slow in the first place? We could all agree that adding speed to dysfunction is a really bad proposition. So if your swing is garbage and you're going to go spend however much money on speed sticks, you're just going to get faster at garbage. I would probably say let's focus on your movement quality and let's see what your swing speed does. Let's spend some time with an instructor and let's see what your swing speed does. If you've got a big over the top move, you're going to get really good at moving over the top really fast. If you come out of your posture, you're going to get really good at doing that fast. So I like them. I think they're very useful tools. When you put them into your training, I think is important, because I think a lot of people just think more is better. And with those, less is more. So I would treat them like any other explosive activity, whether it's an Olympic lift, a kettlebell swing, med ball slam. They go at the beginning of the training session. You do them as your explosive exercise. We manage reps, and then you build up reps to build up competence and some endurance with that. And then we move on to do other things. If somebody asks me, can I do this during our training? I will say yes. Let's figure out a time and a place for them and where they fit into our training, so that we're not blowing out your nervous system with too much explosive activity. But for someone who really wants to do them, they are the client. So I have to toggle what they want and what they need.
Sure.
And we usually we'll come to a compromise, and we've had some pretty good results with our clients using it. But I will, for someone who's not a very accomplished golfer who wants to use them, I will always say, let's get you a lesson so that we can get you out of some of these habits first, and then let's start building up some speed there.
Love it. That was you put that really well. And that's kind of a similar idea for me. Is like, I don't personally, your swing's not ready for this, basically. And there's other things we need to do here that I can do that I'm better at. And we can work together, and that's, hopefully we can get that buy-in. So one last golf question. We're going to stay on this tune for the next couple minutes, but
yeah, you
went from Florida, the Mecca of golf, to Wisconsin. And we talked about this. I'm in Indy. When I was in New York, and we have a shorter golf season there, and here in Indy, I know you do in Wisconsin as well, but there's a healthy, vibrant, golfers are nuts, first of all. So it doesn't matter where they are. They could be in Alaska, they could be Alaska. They'll be hitting balls. How different, how does the different look like for you from the perspective of when you're programming, when you're looking at, let's say, periodization with Florida, the difference with Florida and Wisconsin?
Well, first of all, 80% of the golfers in Wisconsin don't leave for the winter like they do in Florida. So we're managing, but some of the challenges still apply. In Florida, everyone starts to come back down October, a little bit in November, but mainly like right after Jan 1, like Jan 2, everyone's there hot and heavy for 4 to 5 months. And during that 4 to 5 months, they want to, like, because they live up north, they want to golf as much as possible. So we're looking at managing how much training volume we have so that they can golf more. They are recreational golfers, so we can stay in a fairly regimented fitness program and strength program while they're golfing, and we're trying to fit it in, both golf and training as much as possible. And then they go up north. So I'll communicate with their strength coach if they have one, if they're an online client. So they see me in person in Florida, and then they go up north and we continue to work online remote. We just continue, business as usual. If they go up, I'll communicate with their strength coach or physio up north, say, hey, here's what we did. Here's what we worked on. Here's some opportunities in training, and then they're all yours. And then we'll have that other conversation when I come back down. Like you said, the Midwest golfers are great. I mean, people are golf nuts up in Wisconsin. When I say it's a passionate golf community, it is a passionate golf community, and I love that. What it is not is a passionate golf fitness community. So the main reason we moved was to get our 2 young kids closer to my family. I grew up here. I still have a ton of friends, a ton of family in Milwaukee. And so that was our first decision that put everything over. It was like, let's get the kids closer to home. Second was where I was going to be working. I feel like there's a lot of opportunities for, training equals rehab and rehab equals training. T equals R from Charlie Weingroff. And there's a huge component that's missing up here. When people leave PT, we're leaving opportunities on the table for people not to go back to PT, which is the goal. They were in PT for a reason. They rehabbed. Let's keep them strong. Let's make them strong. Let's make sure that they don't return to pain. And we have an opportunity to get more golfers up here focusing on fitness, because we do. Like in Indy, we have a very short golf season comparatively. Let's maximize it. Let's get your body moving well so you can play more golf. We can play better golf, and then we can winterize the game so that we just don't go into hibernation from late October until April. We have an opportunity to really build our body to be healthier, to be stronger, and to lay down that foundation for when golf season hits. I mean, if the weather's accommodating in November, the grass is brown and there'll be people out with push carts. They'll just go out and play some of the muni courses. I think it's super cool. So they'll golf at every opportunity, but let's build the golf body for them so that they can have the golf game that they want.
Absolutely. Good stuff. Let's finish up with, you and I were talking earlier, and you even said on this podcast that you'll look at this 30 to 35 year approach for a 50-year-old. And we were talking about a lot of the Peter Attia stuff in Chicago, and this similarity. I was talking to Coach Boyle about that today with functional training, is how, there's some of the stuff that we're doing. Like I said, I do a lot of things standing up. We do, some different squatting movements, single and double leg movements, and hinging, and a lot of cable movements, the power playground, things that are going to translate, hopefully, not only for golfers, because I don't only work with golfers, but then to life. Talk to us about golf strength training and how, for you, it relates to health and longevity.
Yeah, I think the top 2 things for me, or top 3, I guess, and 2 of them are related when it comes to health, longevity, and training golfers. Can we get up and down off the ground? So we get up and down off the ground in many, many different ways when we train them. Second is working on balance and single leg strength. When you put a weight in somebody's hand, you're working on grip strength. So we get grip strength, which, I mean, there are tons of correlations between grip strength and health and longevity, all-cause mortality. So is balance. Yeah. And, again, if you have bad balance, you're going to have a hard time getting up and down off the ground. So we can work on both. We can work on both at the same time. We can work on that single leg strength. You have single leg strength, you have good balance. We can get up and down off the ground. We can weight shift better. When we weight shift better, we can rotate better. When we rotate better, we can move better. When we move better, we have a better golf swing. So you can tie all of those things together. And then I think as we age, I think there's some commonalities of, poor sleep quality, waking up in the middle of the night, what our posture looks like, all of those things. And the first thing that we do with the corrective exercise model is assessing somebody's breathing. We work on breathing and then we work on soft tissue. So we have an opportunity to reset some breathing patterns, get them on the floor, just work on nasal breathing and how we inhale, how we exhale, working on breathing mechanics and seeing how movement posture change with that. Where you teach them better breathing mechanics, they're going to sleep better. And if they sleep better, they're going to be recovered better. There's so many good benefits of just starting at the lowest common denominator and building up, no matter who you're working with. Whether it's, again, a Major League Baseball pitcher who's throwing 98 miles an hour to the 76-year-old who just had double knee replacements or a hip replacement. We can all start at the same place. We can give them some of the same things. The progressions might be a little bit quicker for the MLB guy, but we can do some really cool things. And then if the 76-year-old gets up and down off the ground better, their single leg strength improves, their balance improves, their grip strength improves. Maybe we added 3 more years to their life. And, instead of, unfortunately, instead of being in your last marginal decade at 76, maybe we're pushing that out to 90. Maybe we're pushing that to 95. We add some years and we add quality to those years. That's super cool. And I joke around with everybody and say, the secret to good golf is living long enough to shoot your age. And then all of a sudden, everyone knows the 90-year-old at the club who can shoot 85. And they're like, well, they're an anomaly. I'm like, I don't think they need to be. I think we can all aspire to be that person. We just have to start as early as possible. And if we can start at 46, great. If we start at 76, that's just as good. We just have a different length in our plan.
Yeah, it's true. I think Peter Attia had posted about a guy who started rowing at the age of 73.
Yeah.
And I think he's 90 now or something. And I actually did the Crash Bees, which is the World Indoor Rowing Championships in Boston. It sounds bigger than it is, but like anybody can do it. And I went there to support a client. His daughter was doing it and he was going to do it with her. So they have different age groups. And there was this woman who was 93 years old. And I said, oh my God. And the community there was in the Boston University ice rink. And the way they set this thing up was so cool. And I said, I'm going to do this next year with you, Brad, and then I started rowing and we started doing training for it together. And it just became this thing where, it's you're looking at somebody who inspires you at that age. And, now you're thinking, hey, that is possible. When you do see that, very similar to, kind of the talent code. It's that switch, right? That I forget what he called it in the book, but it was that light bulb or that switch that, that trigger that's like, wait, that's somebody who is doing it. I can do it too. And I think it inspires people all across, your gym and then, the butterfly effect from there. So it's good stuff.
Yeah, Pavel talks, I know he does it at the level 1 and a lot of the barbell strong first certifications, but he talks about his father-in-law who's 77 years old and deadlift, I think it was like 400 pounds, won a deadlifting meet in his category. I think like it sounds ridiculous and it sounds completely unattainable. And then you put a time frame on it. If you say to a 77-year-old, you're going to deadlift 400 pounds, they're going to look at you like you're nuts. But if you tell a 44-year-old that it's age 74, they're going to deadlift 400 pounds and we have 30 years to get there, here's how we're going to do it, then all of a sudden that becomes very, very different. If I told somebody you have 30 years to do this, I know some people are going to wait 29 years, 364 days to start, but if we can start taking steps now to do that, it's like, hey, for our 46-year-old golfer, you're going to shoot 74. Like, you're crazy. I'm like, what if I give you 10 years? can you shoot 74 in 10 years? They're like, well, yeah. I'm like, great. Here's a plan that we're going to put in place for you to take 10 strokes off your game. Can we get 10 strokes better in 10 years? Well, yeah, I think we can. Can we get 10 strokes better in 30 years? Well, yeah, obviously. So when we put those long-term plans in place, that all of a sudden will encompass getting up and down off the ground every day, making sure we have good single leg strength, making sure we have good balance, making sure our grip strength is good, making sure, to your point, making sure we can do half kneeling, split stance. We're doing all of the things that we've talked about that we would once consider functional training, but all functional training is just making sure we hit all three planes of motion. We're hitting different stances. We're hitting different positions. We're removing joints. We're doing all the things that we need to do. Now we have 30 years to get there, not 30 days or 30 hours. And all of a sudden that becomes very manageable and very attainable. And when you set goals like that, you can work towards them right now and not feel like you've got all the big wear and tear on your body that would be a detriment in 30 years.
Yeah, love it. Love it. Well, Mitch, thank you so much for doing this. Great to kind of continue the conversation we had in Chicago. Again,
Same.
a great advertisement for people to get your butt out there. Don't just watch Zoom or listen to podcasts, although you should listen to podcasts, but
just do it while you lift.
Yeah, there you go. And but yeah, just another great reason, the personal connection and the conversations, and I'm glad we were able to continue. So thank you so much for coming on, Mitch.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. And maybe next time we do this with those bourbons. That sounds like a wonderful idea.
Yeah.
Actually, by the way, for the record, I don't think you were drinking bourbon. Brett and I were drinking old fashions. Because if you're in Wisconsin and you're in the Midwest, an old fashioned is mandatory. It is the state drink in Wisconsin.
Yeah, I do not. I have a hard time putting anything in it. So I was just drinking bourbon neat. My bourbon. I like my bourbon neat. So
yeah. Well, it depends on the bourbon. The lower quality, yeah, for sure. Old fashioned.
Exactly.
Higher quality, just a little bit of ice.
Exactly. There you go. All right, Mitch. Thank you so much, and hopefully we'll talk to you soon.
Appreciate it. Sounds good. Thanks, Dan.
All right, guys, that's going to do it for episode 385 of the Strength Coach Podcast. The show notes are located at strengthcoachpodcast.com. Don't forget, you can try both MBSC.tv and strengthcoach.com out for 7 days for free. Go to those respective websites, strengthcoach.com or MBSC.tv. Special thanks to Chris Parier and the folks over at Perform Better. Couldn't do it without them. The biggest sale of the year right now at Perform Better, the summer sale. Over 100 products, up to 40% off right now. Rowers, air bikes, dumbbells, kettlebells, racks of all kinds, and bands of all kinds. So much more. Check it all out at performbetter.com. Thanks to Coach Boyle and Mitch Sadowsky for sharing their insights and philosophies into the world of strength conditioning, performance enhancement, and golf fitness. Thanks to Sumit Seth and Naamly, helping build relationships through personalized communication so your members stay longer and pay longer. Check out the show notes for Naamly's free Fitness Business Boost Bundle. 3 gifts to you, a checklist, 51 ways to acquire clients without running ads, a cheat sheet, 12 places to look to hire your star trainers, and a guide, 9 secrets to increase your retention. You can get a link for that in the show notes. Thanks to Coach Joe Strong and the team over at the Business of Strength. Don't forget, Strongest Year Retreat 2024, September 19th and 20th in Scottsdale, Arizona. 2-day gym business specific mastermind with lectures, workshops, breakout sessions, and social networking events. Gym owners who want to scale their business beyond 500K, this is for you. Go to bosretreat.com, Business of Strength, right? bosretreat.com for more info. Use the code StrengthCoach300 for a special discount. That's going to do it for this episode. My name is Anthony Arena. Thanks for listening, and I'll speak to you next time.